You know, winning this award really surprised me. I definitely was not expecting it, but when I thought back on some of the things that I've been able to accomplish in my career, I'm thinking, okay, well, yeah, I've been focused on the love of science and trying to expand that love of science to as many people and as many young people as I can. I'm a registered nurse by background, and I've been a nurse for 50 years now, and was a nerd in elementary school and loved reading my encyclopedias, which I know many of you all don't even know what those are, but reading those and just loving science. And I think that one of the things that I've been able to do over the years is really to show individuals how everyday living is science. You know, the whole idea of understanding the moon and the stars, and understanding how to cook, and understanding how I play piano, how to play the piano, and how that fits in terms of math, really is and has been an important part of my life. And being able to share that knowledge has been very important to me. You know, I get asked often, how did you come to really love doing what you've done? I've been in healthcare administration for a very, very long time, and ended my career as a professor in nursing at the University of Cincinnati. And when I think about how I got to that point, I can't help but to go back to my roots. I'm a native of Youngstown, Ohio, and my mom was a single mom, and we grew up in the home of my maternal grandparents. My grandfather worked in the steel mill, and he would tell us these stories about the kinds of things that he had an opportunity to do while working in that mill. At the same time, he promoted for all of us, for his 3 children, my mother, her sister, and her brother, and for his grandchildren, the importance of education. We did have those encyclopedias in our house. I read those encyclopedias like they were storybooks. My mother's sister was an elementary school teacher, and so was my uncle, their brother. And my mom went to school to become a medical technologist. And so the whole idea of the importance of education and science, I was just surrounded by that. And I just happened to love it. I was a tomboy, I have to say that, and I was one of the little kids that would be outside picking up the worms and putting them in the dirt, and catching pigeons and trying to figure out how birds fly and things of that nature. By the time I got to high school, I really had engaged in the notion of doing something that had to do with science. Now, having said that, I'm older, so there weren't a lot of opportunities for young black people at that time, and I thought I was going to go to school to be a teacher. So that was my goal. But I had this wonderful, wonderful chemistry teacher when I was in high school, and I absolutely fell in love with chemistry. So when it got time to go to college, I found out that nursing embraced the physiological sciences, chemistry and biology and anatomy and things of that nature. So my mother encouraged me to become a registered nurse, and so when I went to college, that's what I did. And I have never ever had the kinds of experiences that I had as it relates to going through that educational process, but I will forever be grateful for Mrs. Monroe, who was my chemistry teacher back in Youngstown at East High School, for all of the things that she taught us during that time that has served me well, not only during my college education and my nursing training, but all through when I was practicing as a registered nurse. Sometimes when we talk about contributions, it gets embarrassing for me, because I believe that I have been walking in my purpose. what I mean by that is that I think that God gives all of us gifts. And I believe that it's our responsibility to use those gifts to His glory. And His glory often means doing it, utilizing them so that someone else can benefit for them. I have been so very blessed to have had the opportunity to start programs in hospitals, both here in Cincinnati as well as in my hometown in Youngstown, that help to support the care that is given to people, particularly those individuals who are vulnerable and don't have the resources that they might need in order to live a life of comfort. And so I believe that God has used me to facilitate a lot of the collaborating or cooperation of bringing people together so that they can really get to live, work, and play in a really nice way. I think the other thing that I'm proud of is my ability and I want to say okayness, I don't even know if that's a word, but to just be myself. I have never, that I can recall, and I don't know, I'd have to ask others who've been around me, I've never felt the need to showcase me. I just never have felt the need to do that. But I will, in a minute, showcase the works and the successes of individuals that I've had the opportunity to encourage and to remove barriers and to coach and to guide. And so I'm very proud of that work. I'm very proud that God saw to use a little ordinary colored girl from the east side of Youngstown to be able to do some extraordinary things in the world of healthcare and in nursing education and in establishing environments that support equity and justice for the vulnerable populations, and to be able to surround myself with a bunch of smart people that we can cooperate and collaborate in a way to really make a difference in the world. I have had a few people that have really impacted my life and the work that I have done. But I'm going to start with my mother. My mom was a single mom, and there were 4 of us. And she, in spite of the challenges that she faced during some pretty terrific times for Black people, we're talking in the 50s, she still was able to share with us what it was we would need in order to be successful in the United States. And to that end, she had 4 successful kids. So I want to start with her, and then her sister, who was a school teacher, my Aunt Mary, who just passed a couple of years ago, really was the person in our family to help us to understand how to love. And what I know for sure is that knowing how to love, knowing how to establish relationships so that people can feel good about themselves is key to individuals being able to be good at whatever gifts that they have been given. And my aunt played a really significant role in doing that. Then there was Mrs. Monroe, my chemistry teacher. She was one of the few Black teachers that I had in high school. I know that a lot of people that I know that are in my age bracket never had any teachers of color, but Mrs. Monroe was a chemistry teacher, and she knew that chemistry, and she made sure that we all knew it as well, and that certainly helped me throughout my career as a registered nurse. Then as I started practicing, I found that I had an innate ability to bring disparate groups together for purposes of doing work, and was selected early in my career as a manager in my organization at home where I worked at, and became a leader in the organization, one of two African Americans at the age of 27. And a couple of years into that work, really was able to establish some credibility in the organization as someone who could help make change happen. And it was at a time, this was in the 80s, it was at a time when healthcare itself was changing in a way that the United States was not accustomed to, and I established some new programs for delivery of care at the organization where I was working at. So the chief nursing officer at that time saw fit to ask me to become one of her directors over the multi-hospital system. We had 3 hospitals up there, and I got selected, the only African American at that level in the system, to help to establish these new programs to support the changes that were going on with healthcare. Why I select her is because she didn't have to pick me, number one, but number two, she not only selected me to do that work, she was willing to work with me to help me to understand how to navigate in a system that maybe wasn't quite ready for me. She was ready, but the system wasn't ready. And she supported me in understanding how to navigate that. And I do find that what she did for me, that I have done that for others, because I do think that it's important. And then one other person that I want to say that really supported me and shared some skills with me that really helped my career once I moved here to Cincinnati was a vice president of government relations. And because of my innate abilities to bring people together and to help people feel good about themselves, and that he saw that it would be great if I would be able to move into some of the work that he was doing in terms of strategy development. And I will be always forever grateful for him as well, because he really spent some time helping me opening doors to help me to get into those doors that were going to support my being able to meet the needs of the organization. So, there are lots of others. It's interesting because some of the people that I feel they feel I am their mentor, I feel that they have mentored me. I'm a baby boomer, so I'm, getting a little more elder than some of the people that I hang out with. And what I don't know that they understand is how much they teach me. Learning, that continuous lifelong learning, I think is so important for all of us, and they're showing me, what are the kinds of things that I need to take into consideration when I'm interacting with these diverse populations, particularly as it relates to generations. I think that I've kind of navigated and have a pretty good understanding of how to navigate among the races. But these generational differences and values are also very important, and I'm learning a lot from the young people that I hang out with. If I could leave one mark, what would my legacy be on the world, given what I know today? It would be for people to learn how to love one another. And when I talk about loving one another, what I mean is the ability to accept the differences that we all bring to the table. And what I know for sure is that if we can understand those differences and take the time, we're able to develop and create some marvelous things in this world and in our environment. I use as an analogy a quilt. I use that as an analogy because quilts are beautiful, and they're oftentimes have very small different unique pieces of cloth that the quilter puts together in a way that is not only beautiful to look at, but is also very useful. I believe that if we could learn how to embrace all the differences that we all bring to the table, we can really create a great world for all of us. It's not zero-sum game. It doesn't have to be some are better and some are, some are less. And we're all different. And I truly believe and have operated in this realm that everyone brings something of value to the situation. Everyone. And even sometimes the person may not know that they're bringing anything of value. And you know what? When we love one another and we establish relationships with each other, we can help those that don't see it in themselves to see it in themselves. I'm grateful that individuals did that for me. Because if someone would have told me way back when I graduated from college in 1976 that I would have had the opportunity to have the career trajectory that I had, I would have told him, you have got to be kidding, right? I would have never believed it. But there were people who saw things in me and qualities in me that I did not see in myself. And so my hope, and if there's that one thing that I hope that I've been able to do, is to touch a few lives so that they can see how special that they are, so that they can use their God-given gifts to be able to make this place much better than it is today.